Oh, there it is.
Yes, indeed. Welcome to a Celtic World, Celtic chat on a planetary scale. As
Yes.
the name suggests, one of our aims is to celebrate the fact that there are Celtic fans all over the world. So we will be having contributors from a wide range of countries. So, who do we have joining us on this first historic episode? Well, there are three of us currently. We're experiencing a few first episode problems with our final participant, but he may
Yeah.
join at some stage. So let's go round the windows. If I could just channel Cilla Black and say, question number one to number one. What's your name? Where do you come from? And where are you? And Stephen, you're number one.
Okay, I thought I'd be number one, Gav. Yeah, so my name's Stephen. I'm based in Sydney, Australia. I've been here for 16 years. Prior to that, I was born and brought up on the west coast of Scotland in a little town called Kilwinning in Ayrshire. And I've been supporting Celtic for the best part of 40 years, man and boy. So yeah, I'm also found to be found on the Celtic Down Under podcast, which is a podcast based in Australia, and can be found on that on a Tuesday evening. So yeah, happy to be here, happy to support an exciting new project.
Very
Yeah.
exciting. And indeed, we met, did we not, Stephen, on Celtic Down Under? I also have a little visual aid here for anyone who doesn't know where Sydney is. There's Australia. And I have these for each of the
No.
participants. So let's move on. Same questions to Dano.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Dano. Well, my nickname's Dano. My name's Daniel Springer. I'm from Chicago originally. I've been a Celtic supporter since like my late teens. Met a big Celtic fan who ended up being my roommate in Chicago after graduation. His father and mother were from Glasgow. I started watching the games and just fell in love. I mean, I'm Irish American in background. It was just a perfect fit. So um, I'm based here in Gwangju, Korea. I've been living here for about the same amount of time as Steven has down in Australia. I came here in 2005. So I spent a couple of years back in the States, like earlier in the 2010s, and came back. And yeah, I live here in Gwangju, which is down in the southeast of Korea. And Korea's fifth largest city. And I do a nightly radio show here on the English language station GFN. And it's called The Drop with Dano, kind of exploring a diverse array of different styles of music every week. So Monday through Friday. And trying to cover as much of the ever expanding and metastasizing audioverse as I can in a given week. So
Well, it's good to meet both of you guys and hear a little bit about you. We had Denny, who is our fourth guest. He was here just a second ago. I saw him for the first time
ooh,
ever. And I sent him a private chat saying, we can see you, stand by. And then he disappeared,
I
unfortunately. So, Denny, if you can hear this, please come back.
Denny,
That's
are
where
you
he,
okay?
that's where he
Yeah.
is in. He's in India, in Goa. So I don't know if
Oh
he's having
man.
a few technical issues or not.
Internet
My
can
name's
be kind
Gav,
of
by the way. I
yeah.
should tell you where I'm from or where I am. I am in Malaysia, Malaysian Borneo, one of the two states of Borneo that belong to Malaysia. So
Mm,
I'm in Sabah, where the red dot is. You can see that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what this show is going to be all about. Well, as I say, it's Celtic chat mostly, the latest game, the next game, all the news. We're going to have contributors from all sorts of interesting countries. That's the idea. So far, we've Japan, Spain, Abu Dhabi, Italy, Scotland, and the four that would have been on tonight had everything gone smoothly on day one. We're also going
but
to meet and talk to supporters clubs. We'd like to learn all about the CSCs all around the world, and we have a few lined up on future streams to participate. So if you're part of a CSC, somewhere interesting in the world, and you'd like to participate, give us a shout. Maybe you can
yeah,
join us for a live stream. And if time zones prevent that, we can always record a segment at a time convenient to you and then play it during one of the streams. And one other thing we're going to do is shine a light on our favourite Celtic social media recommendations every episode. So we're going to celebrate all of the Celtic content creators out there.
Yeah.
So unless Denny returns, it's going to be just the three of us, gentlemen.
Yes.
But I'm sure you can shoulder the extra load. All right. Well,
Yeah.
let us get on to our first topic of conversation, which is this. Thoughts and feelings going into this season. I'm also going to add this little ticker, which includes our social media links and the usual stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we feel about going into this season? Stephen, you mentioned Celtic Down Under earlier, and the last time I was on a podcast talking about Celtic, it was in the wake of Ange's disappearance, and we were all terribly depressed and disillusioned with the world and life in
Yeah.
general.
Have they found him yet, or do they know?
He's disappeared, yeah.
Kidnapping?
He's gone from our minds.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was feeling pretty low then, and well, I wonder, how do you feel now, Stephen, about the situation?
Yeah, it's a strange time of the year for Celtic fans. You know, we've got a new manager there who's remarkably similar to our previous manager we had. So it's quite exciting on one hand, with all the possibilities. I think, you know, we were disappointed that Ange left, but you know, in a very un-Celtic way, we managed to upgrade our manager. So out of the trauma of losing Ange, I think we've ended up with a better manager in Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah.
Now, what remains to be seen is, you know, how we end the transfer window, and that's going to be key to how the feelings are going into the season. At the moment, I'm fairly confident that we're going to win the league again.
Yeah.
You know, I'm almost sure we're going to win the league again. You know, things can always come unstuck, but I'm as sure as you can be that we're going to win the league again. But it's what we achieve in Europe is going to be the question, and whether we can sort of, you know, improve on previous year's performances, and that to me is very much up in the air at the moment. We did a podcast on the Tuesday show for Celtic Down Under last week, which you can check out if you want, and it was to do with the benchmarking Celtic against our European peers and clubs that we should be doing better against. Because where we're sitting now in the coefficient table is miles lower than where we should be. We're sitting something like 56th in the European coefficient table.
Yeah.
We're something like 20 places below Rangers, which is just not an acceptable place to be. So we need to do better on that front for sure.
Yeah.
Gav, you're on mute. I can see you waving your finger around, so I presume you're trying to talk.
You were saying something, yeah.
Well, as people may have noticed, Denny has joined us, but he seems to be in a state of suspended animation.
Yeah.
So
His tapestry has joined us, it seems. Yeah.
When he next looks like he's present and possibly able to speak, let's see if he can speak to us.
Oh, there goes the mic.
All right, let's pick up the previous thought then. Dano, can you carry on from where Stephen left off?
I was gutted when Ange left, like really badly. But getting Brendan Rodgers back in, who I agree is, I think, a better manager, and I think it's going to be much better for the youth of the club. I don't think Ange is really a guy that's big on playing the young players or anybody. It's really hard to get his trust as a player. So I'm confident in the season. I think we'll win the league again. You know, the cups, as always, are just kind of, you know, the non-focused upon bonuses in a season, I think. But yeah, the main focus needs to be doing better in Europe, which was so frustrating last year. I mean, we should have done much better than we did. There were so many times where we just had goals sitting there, and they just, for one reason or another, they just went wide or something. So I'm looking forward. You know, you got to go through your knocks with players that don't have any European experience, and you know, now that they do have a year under their belt, I'm really looking forward to see what they can do this year. So I think that'd be the benchmark. Being somewhere in Europe after Christmas this year would be kind of the key, and I think most Celtic supporters are like that. Yeah, but I'm really excited. I mean, the transition was very smooth. You know, I mean, it was shocking to have Ange leave, but to have Brendan Rodgers come back is amazing. So really excited about this year,
Yeah.
especially with
Well,
the young players we've been picking up too.
why was it shocking that Ange left, Dana?
Uh, it wasn't shocking. I mean, people could see it coming, but it was still heart-rending. It was rough. I was so gutted when it happened because I know everybody was looking forward to another year with Ange, especially in Europe. So, but I think this is great, man. This is a really great opportunity for the club and everybody to improve the coefficient and everything that hasn't we haven't quite been measuring up this year, the past several years. You know.
Yeah. Now, I think we have to be careful sometimes when we hear all this chat and we hear Celtic fans saying certain things and we just accept them as truth.
Right.
Upon what basis do you two think we've upgraded our manager? Are we just saying that to comfort ourselves, or is he genuine? What makes him a better manager?
No. Well, I don't know. Steve, you were saying the same thing. If you want me to go first, or
Yeah, no,
it's
you
up to
go,
you.
mate. You go first.
Okay. I think, like I said, I'm really excited to see Rogers manage some of the youth we have at the club. You know, there's some really exciting young players who are 18, 19, 17 right now, who, if they can get a little bit of first team ball, go out on loan, I think Rogers is really strong with developing young players like that. So that's mainly what I'm excited about. But also, he did really well in Europe. I mean, admittedly, it was the Conference League, I believe, at Leicester. But I do think on that level, he is a better manager. He has more experience. He has, I think, he has more of a panache with the young players and more of a willingness to give them like genuine minutes. Um, so, yeah, that to me, I think, is a preferable situation.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Daryl. I think it's just as simple as the fact he's got more runs on the board than Ange did. He
Right,
has managed an EPL and he has succeeded in the EPL. I mean, let's not forget he was one game away from winning an EPL title with Liverpool
right.
and breaking their duck, which went back about 20 years.
Yeah, at that
So he
time,
was
yeah.
basically a Steven Gerrard slip away from winning that title.
Yeah,
So he has succeeded. He succeeded with Leicester, taking away two top five finishes and the club's first FA Cup win, I think, in their history, if I'm not mistaken. And as
yeah,
you say, he got to the semi-final of the European Conference League, which is a lesser competition, of course, but
right.
still a decent achievement for a club like Leicester. In the fullness of time, Ange might show he's a better manager than Brendan Rodgers, but as we sit here, right now, definitely Brendan is got a higher pedigree than Ange for sure.
Well, I also think that he's more tactically flexible, you know, in his approach to like big games against, you know, the Real Madrids or whatever of the world. So I think you see more of a news in that area as well. I forgot to mention. So
Yeah, he's also got a good reputation for in-game management, for being able to make tactical tweaks to games which can swing a result in our favour.
yeah,
He had a bit of a history of doing that when he was here the first time, whereas Ange was more or less set to a system. And
yeah,
if Plan A was my system and Plan B was do Plan A better, and that was
yeah,
it really.
yeah,
So he didn't really influence games tactically as much as Brendan Rodgers can. And I'm looking forward to seeing that from Brendan. And as you say, he has got a history of improving players. I mean, guys like Kieran Tierney, Callum McGregor, all have got great things to say about Brendan Rodgers and the influence he had on their careers.
yeah,
And Scott Brown also, who probably
yeah,
Rodgers extended his career probably by 4 or 5 years when it
yeah,
looks as if he was heading heading down a slippery slope at one point, but Rodgers turned it around for him. And it's quite exciting to think, the current team that Brendan's walked into at Celtic, there's a lot of good players there. And if he can get an extra 10-15% out of some of those players, the sky's the limit. And obviously, if he can add to the squad in the appropriate ways, then I think there is definitely improvement there, and that hopefully will manifest itself in the European competitions.
Yeah, so that seems to be the talk, is that Ange was exactly what we needed at the time. And he came in and he brought these players from Japan that were a great help to us. And, it's up in the air how much say he had in maybe some of the other signings, but he galvanized the team, brought us all together, gave us 2 years of domestic success. And now Brendan's the right man for the job. That's kind of the narrative.
Yeah.
Do you feel better now about things than you would if Ange was still in the hot seat?
I don't know if it's better or just different. Obviously, if Ange was still in the hot seat, you would be. I think we'd probably be a little bit further on in our sort of transfer window plans. I think the fact that Brendan's jumped into the job, it's probably delayed things a little bit. Certainly with any major money transfers being closed. And I think the guys we've signed so far already this window are guys we would have signed even if Ange had still been there. So it's just added a sort of different level of complexity to the closed season. And I don't really feel, I like Brendan Rodgers. I'm not as hard on Brendan Rodgers as some Celtic fans. I reckon when he left, I think a lot of it was to do with the fact that his relationship with Peter Lawwell, the CEO, had almost completely broken down. And I think his position was just about untenable. He was getting players signed over his head, and he was being asked to form them into a team. Sort of investment, the money had just dried up because it was felt as if he'd an eye elsewhere, and he was looking for another job, principally in China, at one point. So I think I don't blame Brendan for leaving. The timing could have been better, but if you believe Brendan Rodgers, he'll tell you it was a one-time offer from Leicester. And he had to take it, or it wasn't going to be there at the end of the season. Although some Celtic fans will tell you different from that. And I know a lot of Celtic fans still harbour a little bit of resentment at how he left. But I think Brendan was responsible for modernising the club, setting up like sports science departments, data analytics departments, stuff that we just didn't have before. Ronnie Dyler kind of dipped his toe in the water a little bit, but wasn't a strong enough character to implement that sort of stuff. So I'm quite happy to welcome back Brendan, and hopefully the good times will keep rolling.
Yeah. For me, I think whether it's Ange still there this year or Brendan Rodgers, as we have it now, I think what's great to me is the continuity. What we needed when Ange left was having the continuity with what he had built and rebuilt with the club. So that to me was the most important thing. And I don't think it's a huge difference between the two. I mean, we've already talked about the differences, but both have played already very important roles in, what the club is today. So I think, whether Ange is still here or Rodgers like it is in reality, I think it's very exciting to have the continuity between, I mean, it's kind of weird to say, but the three of them. So,
well, what's very exciting is, Brendan is our manager, and I don't know if you saw this, Dano, but just recently in a press conference, he actually name-checked this very podcast. Would you like to hear that?
Yeah, let's check it out.
Unfortunately, for rights reasons, I can only play the audio.
Okay.
Brendan, do you keep up to date with the fan-made Celtic content on social media like Twitter and YouTube?
Well, I'm not on Twitter or YouTube, apart from Dr. Pimple Popper. And of course, the podcast, the Celtic World. Very, very high quality chat, entertainment. perhaps not beautiful people on screen, but focusing on the right things: communication, ambition, quality. That's what I want to see. I'm very proud of how creative our supporters are. So I'd like to see everyone now subscribe to the Celtic World. Like that smash button.
There you go. Fancy that.
That's Brajon Prozac, I guess. Yeah.
And I was just about
Who
to
are
let,
we?
I was about to
Who
let
are we
Denny
to
back in
argue?
there.
Who are we to argue with the great Brendan Rodgers? So, like and
Yeah, well,
subscribe.
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it means more
Little
coming
slow
from
on
him
that
than
day.
if I was to be saying like and subscribe, it would mean nothing. But coming from Brendan himself,
That's
That's
right.
Straight to the top here, boys. Straight to the top. Beautiful.
I might have to take issue with Brendan's comments about it's not being beautiful on the eye.
Well, that's my fault.
You
It's the face for radio, so you guys can blame that on me. It's obviously my bag to carry.
okay. Now, while that was playing, Denny made another appearance backstage, and I didn't get an opportunity to get him to join. So he's knocking at the door at every opportunity.
Oh man!
So come back, Denny. We see you, and as soon as he appears next time, I'm just going to let him in, and we'll talk to him, okay? Because I have a feeling he isn't aware that we can see him or something. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to our next topic, which is about the transfer window. Now, we know it's still open and it's going to remain open for a number of weeks.
Yeah.
So I have a Rangers fan who a friend who's a Rangers fan. At the end of last season, I said it's going to be a massive summer for both clubs. We've no idea who's going to start facing off against each other, when the transfer window's closed. And that remains true. They're going to be much changed, them more than us. So I think there's more to come from this transfer window. So our squad isn't finalised. But we have a Korean expert in our midst tonight, Stephen.
Well,
And
not me. It's Dano. Dano's the Korean expert.
well, I mean,
I'm the Australian expert.
let's
lay off the
we
hype.
have a Korean expert in our midst. Here's Denny. I'm adding him to the stream. Everyone say hello to Denny.
Not just the tapestry. Yeah.
Hello, Denny.
Denny.
We can see you. Can we hear you?
Maybe.
No is the answer.
Maybe.
Oh, I think we got something.
Are we sure this is going to be
No.
it?
I don't know.
Hello.
Hello, Denny. We can just about hear you. There's quite a delay. Can you
Can
turn
you
your
hear
volume
me?
up?
Yes. No.
You're getting clearer with every passing moment.
Yeah, I think
Sure.
there's a big delay going on here.
I'm definitely unmuted.
We can hear you now when you speak, but there's a considerable delay. You're in Goa, as I explained earlier. So I wonder, is there an internet speed issue?
Hello.
Hello. This is going really well, isn't it? The delights of live streaming.
That is it. I'll try it. Hold on.
Sounds like kind of dodgy internet or something going on.
This is
Not going terribly well. Okay, Dano, you're going to have to carry on and talk about
This is
Yang
slow.
and Kwon. What can you tell us about them? Have you watched them play much in Korea?
Well, first of all, let's not get too much hyperbole on the expert part of this. But yeah, I've seen quite a bit of both.
yes, India. Yeah.
Yang is a really good flexible player.
No,
I mean, you
speed,
could kind of
there's no
see.
speed at 150 Mbps, so it's not that. So
Okay. Yang, you could see some of his strengths in Dublin on was it Saturday, I think. and but you only saw him on the right side. He can play either
As
position
soon
in
as
the
I did get
midfield.
connected,
Yeah.
my battery died.
Yeah.
Listen, Denny, we can hear you when you
The
speak,
power
but there's
plug
a
didn't
significant
accept
delay.
the plug from the adapter. It's just
We're
everything
live.
that could
You're
go
you're
wrong
you're
went
addressing the
wrong.
world, Denny. We're 800 strong on the live stream.
Not at all.
I'm going to have to remove you, Denny. I'm sorry. Dano, carry on.
Okay. You could see, at least on the right side, how Yang kind of plays. I mean, he's a player with good pace. He can play either wing and he can play either spot in central midfield. And I haven't really seen him play any type of central attack position, but I would guess he'd be pretty strong in that position as well. His flexibility is really good. I'm a big believer in both of these players, but I'm especially interested to see how Guan does. I think this is a really, really astute pickup by the board. Now, last year he was playing at Sangmu, which is basically where the players go when they have to do their compulsory military service. So they go to this club for a year, and he's only been in K League 2 all year. So I think that kind of shows the depth of Celtic scouting nowadays to be able, to catch on to this player, and, I think it's kind of overstating things by the Korean fans, and he has a lot of them to call him the Korean Rodri, but he's a big physical player, but he's also got a lot of calm and skill in tight spaces in the defensive midfield position, and he's a great passer. The only thing I would worry about a little bit with him is when he has chances to score, he kind of bottles it. He needs to work on his finishing a little bit, but as far as the other aspects of his game, we're talking like 7s and 8s out of 10 for like a defensive midfielder like him. It's a really great steal of a pickup. What did we pay for him? Like 850,000 pounds or something like
Well,
that?
I think a lot of people are underwhelmed by him because he's a second division player. How come he's
Right.
not in the top flight? One is the young player of the year in the top flight.
Right.
Everyone can get excited about that. If we'd
Right.
spent 6 million on him, we'd all be jumping for joy.
Right. And he was a steal too. I mean, I'm not trying to say that Yang is not a great player. He has great flexibility. He's pacey. He has good handles, good crosser of the ball, although his corner kick on Saturday was leaving a lot to be desired. Kind of skied that
What
one.
do you mean he's got good handles? Is that an American term?
Oh yeah, he's good on the ball, basically.
Because I've got good handles, but that's a different story.
Handles the ball. Yeah, right. Yeah, my handles are getting better and better every day. But yeah, he's good on the ball. A very strong player, and I'm not trying to say that Jan is something that's not to get excited about. I think both players are definitely, good acquisitions at very good prices, and they have very bright futures ahead of them. But Kwon especially, I think is a very astute pickup. He also showed some incredible pace, both in his games here in Korea and on Saturday. I think he was catching up with a couple of those forwards and stuff. Dispossessed one of their wingers, I think, late in the game, and he's got a very bright future ahead. Both of them do.
You've got to admire his confidence, Quan, haven't you? Because he's burst through the doors and announced to everyone that he's going to be the best player at Celtic, and then he's going to move straight away onto the EPL or the Bundesliga. So he gets 10 out of 10 for having a set of balls on him.
He's got a lot of these. Yeah, but they're calling him the Korean Rodri here in Korea. I mean, they've been calling him that for a while. Very under the radar pickup, though. I think he's going to be a really good acquisition for Celtic. Like, seriously.
Stephen, how do you feel about the other signings that we've made outside of those two?
Yeah, I think the signings all in general sort of fit the model of what the club's trying to do. We're trying to explore new, fresh markets. We're trying to, scout a certain profile of player at a certain age, with a certain bit of development still in them. And I think the signing of the two Korean boys and the signing of Marco Tilio from Australia certainly fits that model. My only concern is we seem to be loading ourselves up with an awful lot of wide players, most of them who seem to prefer to play predominantly on the right. Now, I know what Dana was saying there, that Yang can also play left, and Tilio can also play left as well. And I think either one or both of them is probably going to have to play in the left if they want to get any significant game time, because it looks as if Rodgers fancies Maeda as a central striker. So I think he's going to get quite a bit of minutes played through the middle, which would leave a space on the left. Jota was able to play both sides, and I think if any of these players are going to be successful, the wide players are going to have to be as flexible as Jota was, both in a starting role and in game, being able to switch wings whenever the manager wants them to. Now, in terms of the Polish centre half, Narovsky, I think I've got that pronunciation right. Is that right, Gav?
Nawrocki, I think, isn't it?
Nawrocki. There you go. Now that was close enough. So I think he's more a sort of straight into the first team sort of type player. I know we've got Starfelt and CCV both there who are the first choice centre halves, but Nawrocki will definitely get game time this year. Bring it up again, Gav, so I can read it. So he'll definitely get game time. Yeah, just leave it there, mate. He'll definitely get game time this year, because one of the problems we had in the Champions League last year was we couldn't get a first choice centre halves on the pitch at the same time, and at various times in the group stage games we were playing combinations like Welsh and Jens at the back. So we never got a chance to see Starfelt and CCV together. And if Nawrocki can come in there and be a first team player, then we've got a better chance of being solid defensively in the group stages, because that's ultimately we're going to have to be a lot better than we were last year.
And are we all still hoping for a couple more? One thing that struck me, Steve, is on Celtic Down Under, we talked towards the end of last season about what we needed, and our priorities in the absence of losing anyone were goalkeeper, left back, striker. And then we lost Jota, a left winger, and that's 4 positions that we haven't addressed. We've made a few signings, but have they been in the right areas? Are we prioritising the wrong things? Are we? Obviously, we're not doing anything, we're just talking about it, but that's what we thought needed to happen.
Well, I think that's where a lot of the concern among the fans is coming from. We seem to be, we're signing players because of their profiles, not necessarily because of the positions they play in. And I would like to see a little bit more targeted recruitment. A lot of the analysis we've been doing on the Celtic Down Under podcast kind of shows if we want to compete with our peers, and we're talking about a peer group that includes teams like Ajax, Benfica, Porto, PSV Eindhoven, Feyenoord, and the other Dutch teams, FC Copenhagen from Denmark. If we want to compete with these teams, we're probably going to have to spend a little bit more money with a view to recouping a little bit more money when we sell the players on under a transfer model. And I think when Brendan came back to the club, the talk was about making some sort of impact in Europe. And a lot of people took that to mean that, we're going to spend a bit more money. Our record transfer fee at the moment is £9 million for Odsonne Edouard when we made his loan deal permanent in 2019. And before that, a record transfer was Chris Sutton in the year 2000 when we brought him in for £6.5 million. So we've only broke a transfer record once in almost a quarter of a century. So I think it's time, we started trying to push the envelope a little bit. And we're not competing with EPL teams in terms of transfer budgets and all that stuff, but we need to be sort of shopping at a little bit more than the 1 to 2 million mark. That's what we are just now. If we can buy some players, maybe 8 to 10 million, there's always risk involved, and it doesn't always work out. It's never an exact science. I mean, you can pay 10 million for a player and he can do his knee ligaments in his first game, but you've got to make a calculated risk based on your scouting, and you've got to take a punt based on your scouting. And I think that's the only way we're going to improve in Europe. I think a lot of things were good in last year's European campaign. I think the tactics were good. I think the setup was good. We just sort of ran out a little bit short of talent in key areas of the game. You know, when Maeda missed a sitter at home to Real Madrid, you know, and there was various times in the campaign where it was just at very, very small margins, which prevented us from picking up enough points. And I think that's definitely where we need to improve. But I agree with you. I'd still be looking for a new left back, a new goalkeeper, and I still think we need another striker.
Well, hopefully there's time to see a few more signings coming in through the door. While we're speaking of new players coming, perhaps we should have a little nod to the man who's having his testimonial tomorrow night, isn't it? Wee Jamesy Forrest.
Yeah.
Dano, your thoughts on Jamesy? Is he a legend of the club, or has he just managed to hang around long enough to rack up some good stats?
Legend definitely seems to be stretching it, but he has been an incredible servant to the club. I mean, to think about the years he's been there, and in Rodgers' first go-round, he played a very key role in a lot of those games. So, yeah, I mean, just a fantastic player for Celtic over the years, and just a guy who loves the club and loves being there, and who's good enough to be there too. I think he's been in certain seasons a very key player, and it's good to have a veteran hand like that outside of the captain and obviously like Callum McGregor to be at the club, especially for all the young guys we're buying, and you want to get them to buy into the tradition and, you know, buy into life of paradise. That's a key kind of guy you want to have around. And I think Rodgers and Ange feel very much that way on guys like James Forrest, you know.
Okay, well, there's a feature that is going to be part of the Celtic World, which we call Celtic Karaoke, which is little musical tributes to players past and present, and even the manager. So maybe it's about time to lay one of those on you. Are you ready for that?
Okay.
I don't think we are ready. But...
Here we go. Oh, let me remove
Production value. Gav.
I tell you, pure quality.
That's high
Denny
quality.
is backstage. Should we give him another crack?
Oh man, I don't know, man.
Oh, he's frozen. Even the image I see backstage of Denny is frozen. I don't think we can.
Internet down there can be very dodgy, you know.
So did you get all those references about wee Jamesy Forrest, Steve?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
What were they?
There was a lot of information in there. I did catch a lot of it about Craig Gordon's girlfriend.
Did you get that bit?
Yeah, I got that bit. Yeah,
Well,
I loved it.
Yeah, I caught that.
Well, I don't really know. We might have to speak to the producer of that little video. I believe in
that musical genius. I'll do so.
I believe an allegation's been made.
No, there was an interview famously that Jamesy did with a female reporter from Celtic TV, and she said as she was concluding the interview, she said, "So what are your plans for this afternoon, James, for the rest of the day?" And he's like, "Going down to Nando's with a few of the lads." Yeah, and he's like, "You up for it?" And she's like, "Gosh, I have to get back to Celtic Park." and he was like, "All right, yeah." And she didn't go, but she ended up marrying Craig Gordon.
Oh,
her name was Summer, wasn't it? Summer.
That's right. So that was the Nando's reference.
Okay.
I like the tight shorts reference though. That's trademark. That's trademark right there.
Gone, he's got the roundest bum. And the dog with no neck is pretty.
The no neck thing, he does. Yeah, he's got no neck
Yeah.
at all.
How old was he when he made his debut? Was he like 16 or something? Man, one of those pictures was
He looked about
really
10.
young. No, it's like he's starting for the B team at 12 or something. Man, wow.
There's some great pictures of him and Cal McGregor together when they were both in the youth set, coming through the youth setup.
Yeah,
Yeah. But I mean, seriously, it's a great advert for the club that someone like that comes through the youth system and ends up staying at the club long enough to get a testimonial. So it's a great advert for youth development. It's something we don't do often enough now. It's been a long time since a guy came through and established himself as a regular first teamer.
Yeah. Who's
I think
the
testimonial. I think a testimonial is very much deserved. Legend, though, I mean, I don't know. I don't know about that. I think it's a step too high. But I mean, Forrest is an amazing player, man. And,
I mean, what is it? What do you class as a legend though? Because he's going to end up with a trophy haul that's going to be up there with any Celtic player.
True.
He's won a whole bucket load of league titles, a whole bucket load of cups, and he's racking up the appearances and goals as well. So I agree with you.
100 goals, over 100 assists. I mean, you don't get that for nothing.
Yeah.
He's had an incredible career for sure, but yeah, I mean, he's up there with the greats, I'd say, but legend is like.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Yeah,
statue outside the park or something. Yeah. But amazing player, man. I mean, Celtic wouldn't be the same without him, for sure.
Yeah. There's no statues being built of James Forrest. That's for sure.
Well, we have to be on campaign today.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to another little thing that I mentioned at the start of the show. I was going to ask you for your, for your social media recommendations. So, Stephen, we'll go to yours first. If I can just share the screen again. And you can talk us through this whenever it decides to appear.
Yeah, so I stumbled.
Go ahead.
So I stumbled across this one from the Twitter account, Tam Selleck's son, a very, very well-known Celtic Twitter account. And it's an advert for some sort of gig that's taking place in some sort of entertainment establishment that's called Live Lounge 72. And it's by a band called, and this is serious, by the way, this isn't made up, a band called the Prod Claimers, right? Which, going by the picture, looks like a pair of baldy Huns with glasses who bear no resemblance to the Reed twins at all, none at all.
I think it's quite a good look myself.
Oh,
it's a great look, but there's so many things jump out at me about this one, like the Prod Claimers thing. It doesn't work though. It just doesn't work, does it? It doesn't rhyme. It doesn't roll off the tongue. It doesn't make sense. It's just, and the sunglasses with the Union Jacks on them, and some of the replies to it were hilarious. If you scroll down,
that is painful.
My favourite one was from a guy called Neil Murphy, and it was a sunshine, nae teeth.
Very good.
Which is a very good one, yeah. I'm on my way from bigotry to happiness today.
Apparently the support act are the Hundertones.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. When you go, will you send back a letter from the creditors?
Very good.
I mean, man, Steve, as somebody who hears really terrible band monikers and a lot of bad music all the time sent into me, man, that might be the worst band name of all time.
Yeah, it's just terrible. Yeah, and it's on from 2:30 till 6 p.m. That's like 3.5 hours. That's some set. That's some set. The Prod Claimers are. I'm almost interested enough to try try and find out what their set list is.
Dear,
Yeah,
dear.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that would be kind of like an over-under bet you could make. Which is going to be worse, the band or the set list? Like their execution of the music or the actual songs they're playing,
Yeah.
All right, $5. Which one you got?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
Well,
man.
that one is now over and done with, to quote the Proclaimers. We'll move on to yours, Dano.
Oh my!
Explain
goodness.
yourself.
Yeah, Kenny Miller. Kenny Miller is just the gift of comedy that keeps on giving in this almost, unbroken run of Celtic success over the past, decade or so. He is always just so overconfident. And we were kind of talking about it before the show. We were saying that Stephen was bringing up, I think because he joined Celtic, there's an overcompensation aspect that's going on here to all of his stuff that he does nowadays. No matter how he feels about it in his blue heart of hearts, he's always talking about, yeah, I've got Rangers as a favorite this year. This is going to be it. And, every signing they have is the next Pele or whatever. It's just hysterical to watch. I mean, whether it's in mainstream media, social media, anything, his overcompensation is hysterical, man. And I'm sure plenty of other Celtic supporters get a good laugh out of Kenny pretty much every single day.
Stephen, your thoughts on him?
Yeah, well, my first thoughts on Kenny Miller is he was an absolutely terrible football player. He was the description at best was best attached to him was he played football like a black bin bag blowing around a motorway. And that was it. He kind of spent half his time charging around the pitch without any real direction to what he was doing. But to be really fair to him, he made a lot of money out of transfer fees in his time. He moved clubs multiple times for multi-million-dollar deals. So fair play to him for who was a really mediocre player at best. But what Daniel's saying is correct. Because he played for Celtic, the Huns are always going to hate him, or certainly they're not going to take to him at all. And it's complete nonsense banter about how Rangers are going to win everything every year. It's become a little bit of a parody of himself.
Oh man!
So Kenny Miller can get right in the bin as far as I'm concerned.
Wasn't Kenny Miller part of that history-making worst Premiership team ever at Derby County?
Yeah.
They had 13 points for the whole season. I think they're still the worst Premiership side ever, and I'm pretty sure that's Kenny running around aimlessly as the striker for that team.
Okay, well, moving on from Kenny Miller to a slightly more somber one. This is something that I saw today. This is from Celtic Bars. Don't know if you know their Twitter handle. I heard this sad news earlier. This is the death of David Potter, Celtic historian, 1948 to 2023.
Yeah, I saw that.
He's a guy who wrote books and, he's been on podcasts of late as well, but he's created loads and loads of Celtic content way down the years. And he sadly died, so he's one of the preeminent Celtic historians. You're familiar with his work, Stephen?
Yeah, I've read a number of books by David Potter, and he's been producing good content for Celtic for years and years and years. And it's a terribly, terribly sad day for the Celtic family worldwide. He's got an incredible knowledge of the club, incredible knowledge of the history of the club, and his books are such a valuable source of reference for anybody who wants to learn about the club. And it's very sad to see him pass away. So thoughts and prayers with his family.
Yeah. Stephen, would you recommend a certain book that you've read by Potter? I'm not familiar with his books. I'm familiar with his other output on, social media and mainstream media. I see him cited a lot, but I don't think I've read any of his titles.
No, not off the top of my head. I couldn't pull one out. But if you just Google him and look through them all, he has wrote books on right through the history of Celtic. So whatever period in the in the club you're particularly interested in. I'm sure that there's a book there that would meet your needs. But definitely, such a vast breadth of knowledge of the club.
Yeah. Well, amazing life, man. Rest in power.
Yeah, it must be amazing for him to have seen the changes in technology over his lifetime. From him writing in books and fanzines and stuff to now today, where any Tom, Dick, and Harry can have a Celtic live stream. Making it work, on the other hand, is a bit of a challenge.
Yeah. The technical side is the challenge nowadays, right?
Well, look, things are going. We're going to have challenges, and if they're going to go wrong, it's more than likely they're going to happen in the first episode.
Yeah, get them out of the way early, man. Don't have them happen late.
My apologies that we couldn't get Denny on, or when we did get him on, it was all terribly disjointed. Hopefully, we can work that out so that he can return and we can hear from him. Other than that, gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. As for the viewer, you can look out for the next show, which is on Thursday. We're going to do Mondays and Thursdays. And next Thursday, this Thursday coming, we will look more closely at the first fixture of the season. And we'll be joined by our first Celtic Supporters Club representative. And the CSC in question is Alicante CSC from Spain. So we look forward to hearing all about them. Thank you, Stephen.
No worries, Gav. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the next show.
And thank you, Dano, for joining us from Korea.
Yeah, Gab, thanks for having me. Outstanding stuff. Glad to be on. Honored.
Well, it was our honour to have you. All right, so that's it for today. Thank you to the viewers. We're now 2,000 strong in the live stream.
Oh.
Thank you for being part of the Celtic World, and we'll see you back here on Thursday.
Yeah.